Leila Myers, and today we're going to talk about what new adult is in terms of books. To understand what a new adult book is, we first need to understand the difference between a category and a genre. A category is who a book is marketed to in terms of age group. The categories, in order from youngest to oldest, are middle grade, young adult, new adult, and adults. Genres, on the other hand, tell you more about what the book's aesthetics are going to be. A genre is a way to describe the content, style, and theming of a book. Common genres can be fantasy, sci-fi, historical, or romance. Genres can overlap and crisscross. You can break genre rules and genre conventions. You can't really do that with categories. You can tell the story of Romeo and Juliet as fantasy, historical, or romance if you want to take out all of the tragedy parts. Categories have strict rules. For example, in the middle grade category, there can be no cursing, there can be very little violence, there can be no sexual content, and it's going to tell stories that middle schoolers are going to engage with. Stories about friendship and being true to yourself. YA is going to focus more on ages 12 to 18. YA stories will focus on things like identity, self-discovery, and the transition into adulthood. I'm going to skip new adult for now and come back to it to tell you about adult. For a while, adult was the kind of default genre. Everything was adult unless proven otherwise. And this really has no holds barred as far as rules. You can have sex on the page, you can have cursing, you can have extreme violence. It was really just kind of the anything goes category. New adult is sort of the newest category on the scene. These stories can have some sex, some cursing. They really follow the rules of adult. The themes are going to be more about identity and sexuality, moving out, striking out on your own, and really those ideas and experiences that are capturing the ages of 18 to 25, where you're technically legally an adult, but you don't really feel like an adult in the world yet. So as you can see, categories tell you much more about the audience, where genres tell you much more about the story. To help wrap your head around this, I'm going to give you some examples. So take fantasy. Most people will know what that is as a genre. A middle grade fantasy might be like Percy Jackson, where it's really targeted at a younger audience. I know some of the later Percy Jackson books could be considered more YA, but the series was originally meant for that middle grade age group. Some examples of YA fantasy could be like the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard, Six of Crows, where our themes are getting a little bit more mature and a little darker as our characters are getting a little older. What's new adult fantasy? Books like Throne of Glass and the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas are actually new adult fantasy. A lot of them are marketed as YA, but think about it. The characters are 18 and 19 when these stories start. They are not dealing with YA themes of discovering yourself. They are dealing with how do they fit into this larger world, how do they become functioning adults. Another book that might be considered new adult fantasy is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Violet is going to college in these books. It's the perfect example of it's a little more mature than YA, but the characters are dealing with new adult themes and it's really targeted at that age range of 18 to 25-year-olds. My book, Felony and Fealty, is also a new adult book. Unlike the other books on this list, Felony and Fealty doesn't have any sex in it. It has barely any cursing. Otherwise, it could be considered YA, and I would argue it is appropriate for younger audiences. But in it, my main character is about 22. She's really not going through those YA self-discovery experiences. She's going through, my whole world has just changed, now how do I fit into it experiences. On adult fantasy, some classic examples are like Tolkien, but I would also argue that Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City series is adult fantasy. Rice has graduated college. She has her job when we start the series, so she's really moved on from that new adult target market into adult fantasy. Now, the adult category can have characters of any age as long as the themes are more adult, but I would argue that purely by aging out of new adult, Crescent City has become adult fantasy. So what are the problems with new adult? Why is it not really recognized as a category? Part of this is due to TikTok. A lot of these new adult books have become very widely popular as TikTok and used it as their primary marketing platform. Think Fourth Wing, think A Touch of Darkness, think the end of the ACOTAR series. These books also have a lot of sex. It's kind of come to be associated as TikTok books that have sex. Another thing is it's been thought of as YA, but the characters are allowed to have sex. And that's not it. It's dealing with these different themes that come along with having older characters. Another major problem is the abbreviation. New adult is abbreviated to NA, like young adult is abbreviated to YA. What do you put on a form when you don't have an answer? You put NA. It just starts to become this kind of fill in the blank. When you search new adult fantasy, it thinks you're searching new adult fantasy. So the key words get jumbled up. And I would argue that we as a community need to come up with a new term for these books that isn't new adult, so it doesn't get confused in Google's keyword searches, and it isn't associated with TikTok or smut, so that these books get the category they deserve, and these readers get the books they deserve. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, my book can be found on my website or anywhere books are sold. I also have a newsletter subscription on my website for when I put out new longer form content like this and the articles I post on my blog. I hope you have a great day. Thank you very much.